What a slippery slope it could be predicting what will happen with Boise State's offense against San Diego State, but not so in the case of Boise State's defense against San Diego State's offense. Let's start with the biggest story, Dirk Koetter's return to the Boise State sidelines or box. We don't know where Dirk may be positioning himself during the game, but I checked the last time Dirk Koetter had coached in college, and a college quarterback was at Arizona State 16 years ago. It could be said that a lot has changed in the college game since then. It's not like Dirk's been brain dead and not following any of these developments in college football. He's drafting quarterbacks. He's with them. He understands the entire thing. I think there is an adjustment though for Dirk, especially with somebody like Green, the quarterback. I think that he's not Jameis Winston. I know that there's a temptation for us to make this comparison because of the running and maybe even the throwing style to some degree. But, you know, Jameis Winston won a Heisman Trophy. Jameis Winston won a national championship. Jameis Winston was a very verbal, excitable, highly confident guy who had to be talked off the ledge for making so many mistakes and causing so many turnovers. So he had a different dynamic about him, and I was looking at the Winston factor, and you know, Jameis progressed to the point where in 2019 he led the NFL in passing yards. So I'm not saying Green is, not a talented thrower, but let's not confuse the fact that he's not going to lead the NFL in passing anytime soon. Winston's a highly talented kid. I think this about what Dirk will do to the Boise State offense, and just start with Taylor Green and what he's going to do with him. From what I can remember and what I know of Dirk, he will get the best out of him and he will minimize the weaknesses. So if Green rolls out, throws well early, can throw well to one or two choices and get rid of the ball quickly, I think you'll see more of that. If he does not do well in third and longs, at least as well as what some other quarterbacks can do that you've seen in the country, then they better run the football. And I think Dirk is very committed to the run game, especially in this situation, because it can help his quarterback. It's not that Plow wasn't. I'm just saying this is what Dirk, to me, is committed to, and that's committed to running the football because it's going to take some pressure off of Green, and they've got to avoid the third and longs. I think another thing that's underrated about Dirk, and for some of us that have gotten to know him, I know that he can be seen as a emotional, intense, at times negative reacting person or coach, a hard-nosed guy. That's not how he treats quarterbacks from things I've been able to gather and for players I've known that have been with him. And even quotes coming out of Dirk's mouth that he doesn't think you should treat quarterbacks that way, and he doesn't. And that's not his reputation. And I think in this situation, that's going to help a lot. And I also believe that not only is he a supportive guy, but Dirk really doesn't have, to me at least, now he may see this different, I don't think there's anything at stake. His legacy as a football coach has been established. He became a head football coach in the NFL, something very few guys can say. He was one of the highest paid and best offensive coordinators in the NFL. So he reached the pinnacle of his profession. He peak performed it. Maybe he could have done better as a head coach. That's not going to change at Boise State in this situation. So I think his ego is going to be lower because he's going to do the best he can with what he has. So I think he will be relaxed towards this situation, which will help a lot. If you think about it, Plow, I'm sure, felt like he had to prove himself, that he was right or wrong or could do the job. Well, Dirk's already done the job. So I think that's going to help Jalen Green here quite a bit and help this offense as he has a confident, calm approach to what they're doing. I do think that once Dirk establishes a ground game and commits himself to getting that done almost at all costs, then you're going to see the play action and taking shots downfield. If you research him, that's one thing he's known for is aggressive shots downfield, explosive 20, 25-yard chunk plays through the air. Can remember back at Boise State with Bart Hendricks when he took the shackles off of Bart, and that became a big part of Boise State's game. That was a long time ago. These are the kinds of adjustments that I think we can at least visibly see. We've already read that perhaps zone schemes, blocking schemes will be taken off the quarterback's shoulders and put onto the offensive line. We can't see stuff like that. They can talk about it, though. I think one of the biggest keys is that Boise State's defense has an offense in San Diego State that can't throw the football. I mean, they're pretty poor, and they have to run the football because they can't throw it. So that's an advantage for the Boise State defense to commit more people in the box like others have done to San Diego State. And I think San Diego State knows they're in trouble in that department. And what I was interested in looking at is that, okay, so in this situation, if they can get San Diego State into more 3-and-outs, can they get extra possessions for their offense? Because with extra possessions, you're letting Dirk approach the game where he can let Green breathe. He can try a few things because he knows he's going to get the ball back because Boise State's defense is stuffing San Diego State. Boise State's averaging about 13 possessions a game. Their high was at Oregon State with 15. Their low was at UTEP with only 10 possessions. Remember the old Kellen Moore days when Boise State had limited offensive possessions. They were lucky they had a maestro in Kellen Moore because he made them pay. That was the idea, is play keep away. Do not let Boise State get the football. Well, some teams succeeded in that, but Kellen killed them because he was so brilliant at adjusting things, and they had a great O-line and running backs and wideouts and all that stuff, and they could attack teams in more limited time of possession, more limited plays, and limited possessions overall. I don't think that's the case here. I think Boise State needs more possessions for their offense, and I think the defense can provide that tonight. Last but not least, it will be interesting to see just where Dirk is during the game, right? We heard that the players want to plow on the field. Well, I don't know if they spoke up and if they said where they want Dirk. He may be where he wants to be. I think you see the field better up top, but his overall communication with his quarterbacks may be better on the field because he doesn't need the phone to be passed off and all that. He can just talk to him as a group, 1 to 3 and all that. So if I'm guessing, he could be on the field, but is there a distraction to having such a prominent person like Dirk Koetter on the field with the cameras and all that and getting all that attention? I'm sure that, goes through his mind, but we're talking about a former NFL football coach that's been through everything that the media has to offer. And so now he's back to a situation where I don't know how much he's, even thought about it, but I gave it some consideration. So it'll be interesting to see what that happens. I'm expecting a better game. I think Boise State's going to have a surge of confidence because they have somebody like this involved, and I really hope it rubs off. I do know this. It's made this game a hell of a lot more interesting. I'll talk to you after the game.